What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by two of the titans in this industry, this so-called industry, this anonymous industry that I keep bringing up. Jurgen Name, how are we today in this very early episode? When we're recording, of course, not when it's released. When we're recording, guys, how are we?
Pretty good, pretty good. Yes, earlier episode than what we usually do, but that is for certain reasons, aka I'm the only one of us that has to work today. Yay me, sarcasm entailed. But yeah, we're recording early, but hey, early to rise, early to bed, boys, and it's time. We got a good one for the people today.
I'm good. It's early. I was up early. Didn't really get some sleep, but I'm ready to go.
That's just nice. Just nice. We got workers in this chat. This chat understands the blue collar work ethic. Well, speaking of blue collar work ethic, there's no NFL this week. But I believe in 5 days, Jurg, that the NBA season starts.
About five, yeah.
Yeah, so five
Within
days.
next week.
Yeah. Next week the NBA season starts, and we are just beyond excited. And finally we got something to talk about other than football. Baseball's kind of in the thick of the playoffs. NHL's around the corner, and so is basketball. So things are heated up, fellas. Things are heating up beyond belief. But this week is going to be a very NBA dominated episode. We are going to have predictions standing. No, that doesn't make sense. We're going to have standings predictions. That's right. We're going to go from 10 to 1. That's right. We're including potential playing teams that we have listed, of course. So that's going to be fun. All three of us will go. We'll reveal our lists. And yeah, that'll be it for this week. Relatively simple. All right, guys, we're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
All
Yep.
right, beautiful. So we made a collective decision to go start off in the East. Now, gentlemen, who's gonna take it first?
Well, I don't know how collective of a decision it was. It was a 2-1 vote. I'm not going to spoil who the one person that didn't want it
Wasn't
was.
one. I wanted to know. I wanted to give my colleagues. Well, I mean, look, Damien's voice in this podcast is the least important. So, all right, Dame, since you're the least important, I guess you go first. We're gonna go 10 to 1. So, Dame, 10th place in the East. Who do you got?
I have the Toronto Raptors. They just. What seed were they last year? They were like the.
They missed the
I think.
playoffs
They
last year.
missed the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had them as like a fifth seed last year, something like that. But obviously it disappointed me. But I don't really see how they got any better from last year. They obviously lost Kyle Lowry. They just added like young pieces to really start their rebuild. So I have them as a 10 seed though. I do think they take a little step forward from last year. They have obviously a fourth pick, so they weren't that good of a team. But I believe in that coaching. I believe in Nick Nurse being one of the best coaches in the league, and I think he's gonna really help that talent develop in a way where they are the 10 seed. And who knows what happens in the playing game? I probably wouldn't trust them in a playing game, but I do have them as a 10 seed.
So my 10th seed, I have the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers were essentially a play-in team at the end of last season. I forget where exactly in the play-in they were, what seed, but they were in that little 14 play-in in the East that ultimately ended with them losing to the Wizards in blowout fashion, from what I remember. But I have the Pacers being a 10th seed. I still think they're a playoff caliber team, and with the new math in today's game with this 9th and 10th spot, being in those seats technically constitutes being a playoff team or playoff caliber team once again. So I got the Pacers. You still got Brogdon, Sabonis there. You still have a good supporting cast. TJ Warren, TJ McConnell. They added some interesting rookies, Isaiah Jackson and Chris Duarte. I'm really going to be intrigued to see how they figure into the team this year and what roles they could play, especially Duarte. But I think there is enough. The Pacers should still be well within the playoffs. But with how I have my East going, I have them as my 10th seed.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I have the same team as Damien here. I do have the Raptors. I was kind of this was a lot of shuffling in this, but I'm gonna ultimately go with the Raptors. I think it was revealed that they'll be in Toronto this year. I know last year was kind of hectic. Obviously, due to the pandemic, they were kind of in, I believe, Tampa for the entire season. But yeah, Kyle Lowry's gone, but they did get Goran Dragic, which is something. It's not nothing. And also, I'm a huge fan of Scotty Barnes. I think because there's a little bit of stability, and they are gonna go young, which I think is kind of best. But even though they're young, I do think they're gonna like maintain that identity of just being like these lengthy, tough nosed, grit and grind defensive team. So yeah, I trusted Nick Nurse to have them at least as a playing team. Gary Trent Jr. I think is going to take a step up. Fred VanVleet. And I think Pascal Siakam, I think he's had like a weird last 2 seasons, to be honest. It'll be up from here for him, but I believe in the potential for the Raptors. All right, now I move on over to the ninth seed. All right, I guess I'll go for the. No, what? No, I'm not gonna go for this one. Jerg, you go for this one.
Okay. So I wanted to have this team a little bit higher in my rankings, but I just look at the East this season. There's so many good teams that I had to put this team a couple notches below. I think they still need one more season for a couple other players to take the next step. I got the Charlotte Hornets as my ninth seed here. Once again, because they were in the play-in last season, so consistently, I think the Hornets are getting into that stretch where they're going to be consistent low-seeded team, at least for the next 2 years or so before they take that next step. LaMelo entering year two, if he's healthy the whole time, I think the Hornets will be in a good spot. You have Miles Bridges there, who they hope has a he probably should have already had a breakout year, but they hope that he can get better. Mason Plumlee is a decent starting center, not the greatest, but solid. And you have Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward there as good veterans. The depth of this team is definitely a lot better. They added James Bouknight in the draft, which was great for their wing depth. They added Kelly Oubre to a 1-year deal. A lot of people may not be a fan of him, but I personally do value the skills that Kelly Oubre can bring. I think it's just all about the environment. And PJ Washington needs to have a big season. It's year 3 for him. Year 3, you hope, is a breakout for most young players. And if he can have that, Kai Jones as a rookie is athletic as hell. He's one of these young athletic bigs that came out in this draft that has like a high potential to a lot of people. And if he can show some of that this year, it's going to be tough because it is his rookie campaign. But if he can do some of that, I definitely see the Charlotte Hornets. That's just another good bench piece for them. And ultimately, they definitely have enough to be a playing team for sure. It's just the depth of the East, man. Like, that's the only reason I have them here.
I have the Pacers at 9. They probably should have been higher, but I just like all the teams I have above them for now. But they're a well coached team. They have a good roster: Sabonis, Brogdon, LeVert. And of course they're in the trade rumors for Ben Simmons, so that could also shift things if they do end up trading for Ben Simmons. But currently, I do have them as a 9th seed, well coached team. They could definitely beat anybody in a playing game, so that'll be interesting to see. But as of right now, the way they're constructed, and the reason is because I like the teams above them. I have them as a 9th seed. At the 8th seed, it's a team that probably made the most noise in the offseason in the East.
Can
I
I
have the
go for my
Bulls.
ninth seed guy?
Oh, I forgot. No, you didn't. I thought you went first for 9 since you ended
No,
at
No,
he
10.
threw it to me. He threw it to me.
I thought that's
Jesus
how we're
Christ.
going.
Whatever. You said Pacers name?
Yeah.
God damn it. All right, I have the Pacers at 9 too. Uh yeah,
Didn't this
so
happen
I
last year? Didn't you guys like go like tit for tat
The
in what was it, the
awards.
East or the West?
Awards.
Oh, it
Yeah,
was
It was
awards.
the
awards.
Okay, all right,
awards.
all right.
Awards.
Stolen.
Yeah, so I have the Pacers. I think to start off the season, I don't think they're gonna have Karis LeVert and TJ Warren. So I think they might fall back a little bit. I think that gives an opportunity for Chris Duarte. Now, look, Jurg, I mean, Dame, I don't know how much you saw of Chris Duarte, and Jurg, I think you saw more of him than Dame did. I am not necessarily the biggest fan of him, and after seeing a few preseason games, and I know it's just the preseason, I don't know, man. I see a very like microwave scorer. Like he could get hot, but like when he's not hitting, bro, I don't think he's that effective at all. So I don't think I'm as high on Chris Duarte, but I think under Rick Carlisle, maybe he'll fix him up a little bit to a point where he's like consistent enough to produce in the absence of Karis LeVert, which I'm pretty sure he will, because I think he's going to get the starting job. But other than that, the Pacers are a well run team. I think Carlisle is obviously a huge step up from the previous coach. I'm not gonna butcher his name. Um, but I like their team on paper. Like if you put their team on paper and they're fully healthy, we got Brogdon, LeVert, T.J. Warren, Zabonis, and Turner. Um, and they always play defense, man. Like the Pacers are one of those teams that just like they never end up being bad, even when they don't have a relatively good season for what it's worth. So I think it's gonna be like this year. I just don't know. I mean, obviously you could use the I don't know if they're gonna be healthy excuse for like every team, but literally to start off the season, they're not gonna have I think 2 of their main pieces. But again, I still don't have them as a high. This isn't an indictment on them. I just think that the East is so stacked. I just have them at ninth. I can't give you like a fully good reason, but if they're higher, I'm not going to be surprised. I just think there's other teams that are going to be better in that tier. All right, Dame, go to your 8th seed, bro.
Okay. I have the Bulls as the 8th seed.
Oh my god.
Everyone knows they made a lot of noise this offseason. We adding Lonzo Ball, adding DeMar DeRozan, of course, at the midseason last year, adding Vucevic. So there is a lot of talent on this roster, and I know there's a lot of people that have him made top 4 seed in the East. But I'm just not a believer in this team. There's a lot of talent, but the talent just doesn't mesh. From Lonzo to Levine to DeRozan, you're 1 through 3. First of all, besides Lonzo Ball, it's not who's guarding like these elite wings like Kevin Durant and Giannis on that team. Second of all, like there is no shooting there. There's no spacing on the floor. That's something Lonzo's gonna need when he's running the break and trying to run an offense. You can't go kick it out to Zach LaVine and expect him to shoot 40% from three. And we know DeRozan isn't a 3-point shooter. He just likes to work in the mid range game. So that's gonna be especially tough on offense. Of course, their defense. So of course, there's a lot of talent, and they could obviously prove me wrong if they do get this talent to mesh. But I'm just not a believer in it. I just think it's a lot of talent that just doesn't fit well together. Although I do really do like Vucevic, and I think he fits on a lot of teams. It's just that 1 through 3 that I just don't think meshes together.
All right, Jerry, let me go for this one because
Yeah,
I
of
do have
course.
the Bulls as an eighth seed as well. Oh my god, this is so
Uh,
gross. Yeah, so I'm also not a big believer in the Bulls. Apparently, they're the greatest team ever assembled after like 2 preseason games. So yeah, I agree with Damien. I think the talent that they've accumulated is just it's very redundant. Like there's a lot of pieces on this team that just don't fit well. Levine and DeMar isn't gonna work in my opinion. Look, if they do end up overachieving, congrats. I just don't see it. But this team's not gonna play defense. To Damien's question, who's gonna defend like those wing players? I'm assuming it's gonna be Patrick Williams. Because only him and Lonzo are the capable defenders on this team. DeMar DeRozan can't defend for shit. Neither can Zach LaVine. Neither can Vucevic. I think we talked about the Bulls on the previous podcast. I would have liked them better if it was just Lonzo, LaVine, and Vooch. But the DeMar thing really kind of made things a little weird for them. But yeah, their bench is extremely thin. What is it? It's just Kobe White, who they just randomly lost faith in, and Caruso. I don't know who else I'm missing, but I just don't. Bench is thin, defense is sus. The offensive talent is just a little bit redundant. I think they're gonna score, but it's very all over the place. And again, I could be wrong. I know the Bulls fans like to gas your team up, but there's no shot that this like I see a lot of people saying they could be the fourth seed. I'm like, oh bro, just shut the hell up, please. But yeah, that's where I have them. So you're welcome, Bulls fans. I have you as an eighth seed.
On day 3 of the NHL being back with the regular season, we have our first hat trick here on the Somewhat Sports Podcast of the new season. I have the Bulls as my 8th seed for this season as well. You guys have highlighted all the points, so I'm not going to deliberate too much longer with that. I'm going to say this. None of these guys have ever led a true winning team. And when I say that, I mean not just a playoff caliber team, a team that can go on a run to the second or third round. None of these guys have been a part of that. Not Lonzo, not Levine, DeRozan technically, but he's not going to be the main guy here. Not Vucevic. Patrick Williams is second, third year, so I'm not going to put too much on the kid. Like they're going to be bad defensively. Like you guys said, aside from Lonzo and Patrick Williams, the other 3/5 of that lineup are either maybe a slightly average defender in DeRozan and 2 significantly below average defenders in Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine. I don't like that. Kobe White, like you said, Chris, like just poor guy. Like his tenure in Chicago has just been so tenuous, and you feel for him. Alex Caruso being there, who they paid a pretty penny to get, like what was it, 4 years, 32 million or something like that. They got Tony Bradley and Troy Brown are the only other decent bench pieces on the team, but aside from that, it's just not good. And Billy Donovan is their head coach, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah.
as we discovered on last episode, I'm not that big of a fan of college coaches at the professional ranks in most situations. And like I've seen what a Billy Donovan team without Russell Westbrook or Kevin Durant on it looks like, and they missed the playoffs. So at the end of the day, I'm not a believer in this team. I got them as my 8th seed. If they somehow get a little bit higher, like I just think that ultimately means the teams that we all have ahead of them, like at least 1 or 2 of them had like a bunch of injury issues. That's the only way I could see the Bulls not being in the play-in is if like some teams have deep injury problems. I'll just move on because we've already
Wait,
gone.
Jerk. To be fair,
Uh-huh.
OKC did make the playoffs. It's just Chris Paul and Shy
All
that
right.
year.
Okay.
But
So without Kevin Durant, without Russell Westbrook, without Chris Paul, there we go. I am
okay.
a slight amend to the statement, but the point still stands. When he doesn't have a future Hall of Famer, the team isn't going to do anything, and there are zero future Hall of Famers on this
You don't
team.
think Zach LaVine's a future Hall of Famer?
What, bro?
the,
Shut
the
up.
the Street Hall of Fame, the Street Basketball Hall of Fame, maybe. So moving on to my 7th seed, the Boston Celtics. this
Ooh!
this team is very interesting to me. I think Ime Udoka is going to be solid as a first-year head coach. I think this is a pretty good roster that he has right now. It's just I think the ebbs and flows of this team and some inconsistencies are going to show. I still don't like the big man situation a lot. I think they're a lot better off than they were last season. Al Horford being back as the veteran, Grant and Robin Williams will be another year better. You hope that those guys take strides, but I just think inside when you think of the top three of the top teams in the East from last season, it's Philly, it's Milwaukee, it's Brooklyn, it's JoJo, Giannis, and even though KD shoots a lot, he could still drive in. So defense is still going to be a question on that team on the inside. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're going to have to really carry the load offensively here because Marcus Smart, like, I really want to see if last year was an epiphany for Marcus Smart and what he can do offensively because, like, I still don't really view him as, like, a high-level offensive player. Maybe he's finally taken that stride, and if he has, like, good for him because I was actually a fan of Marcus Smart coming out of college. But we'll see what happens there. And the rest of the guards they have, like Dennis Schroeder, it is decent. Josh Richardson is solid on defense and inconsistent. He'll get you 20 points one game and 5 points the next. And I say that as a Heat fan, I could tell you the experience. Trust me. And then Aaron Nesmith and Peyton Pritchard are two good guards that they have off the bench, two young guys who I think will be good. But the Celtics seem like there's talent there, but I don't know if Udoka can put it together in just his first year. I think they need a little bit of time on that team. There's still some holes there that I think will kind of hold them back. Because again, like the top end of the East, man, it's so good, and I don't think Boston can match up to that.
I respect that take. All right, Dame, I'm gonna go. Can I go? Is that cool with you?
Yes, it's sure. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I think this will be the first hot take of the episode. 7th place, I have the Philadelphia Sixers.
What
Oh,
the
Um,
hell?
yeah.
oh.
I don't know what's gonna happen with Ben Simmons. Do you guys? Is he gonna play? Is he gonna play? Like, even if he doesn't get traded, or is he just gonna sit out the games? Like, I don't know. What did Woj report? Does anyone know?
I have no clue. I read a report though. I don't know if it was from Wojo that supposedly he's not gonna play. He's just there. But
Jerk, do you
I
know
don't.
this?
Let me check on an update right now.
All right,
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
fact check that. So just in the event that he does not get traded, but he's still with the Sixers. Yeah, look, I think the Sixers without Simmons, obviously they're worse. I think Tyrese Maxey, who I like a lot, slides into the one spot. I don't necessarily know if he could start yet. If this is your team going forward, I'm sorry, but a team where Tobias Harris is your number two, you don't have that high of a ceiling. And obviously Embiid is a superstar, but can I trust him to stay healthy? No. So if a team that does not have Ben Simmons, has Joel Embiid, who's never plays a full season. Like that leaves Tobias Harris as your number one option sometimes. Like, what other offseason additions did they make besides Andre Drummond? And I'm not even gonna get into Andre Drummond. Like that's a joke in itself. But who else did they add?
No
They
one
didn't
really.
add any pieces. George Hill, stop it now. I just don't see the hype with this team if Simmons is out. Again, I like Seth Curry, Danny Green, yeah, but it's also Danny Green. I don't know. I think with a limited Joel Embiid and a virtually non-existent Ben Simmons, I don't know how far this team could go. I'm not a fan of Doc Rivers. Clearly, there's going to be like the Ben Simmons situation is going to hang over their heads. So it's just me. I don't have as much faith as on the. I don't have as much faith in this team as I do as anyone else as everyone else does. To be honest, I don't see it, especially because there's just too many uncertainties going into the season. The season's what, like a week away? Like, come on now. So that's my first hot take. I gave my reasons. Maybe they're shit reasons, but they are reasons. I think they're legitimate reasons. I just don't think they're. I just don't know if those reasons are gonna come to fruition as much as I think they are.
We're getting views on this episode after that one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
So go. Who's next?
Update on the Simmons thing real quick. So I haven't seen a concrete report from Woj about it. The only thing I saw was when Simmons came back into Philadelphia, which I'm assuming with a high security with him at all times. He only came to take a COVID test with the team, so I don't think he's technically back with the team because I think they need the COVID test confirmation. Which, I mean, it's probably rapid still, but from everything I'm reading, like Simmons has at least communicated with them. He got his COVID test, but there's been no movement aside from that. It's not clear if he is going to play with them, from what I'm seeing.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I have as my 7th seed. I agree with Jerg. I have the Boston Celtics there. I really want to put them higher, but like I like the points that Jerg mentioned, like the new coach, kind of new players. Like they still don't have a center. Like years and years go on, they know they need a center. They're still never going to get one. So obviously that's going to hurt them, especially in the East when they go against guys like Joel Embiid And although Giannis is in the center, he still plays big, so you need some kind of interior presence on defense to slow that down. So that's going to really hurt them. But of course, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, that tandem could get you even higher in the East than the 7th seed. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are higher. But the fact that they have a new coaching staff and a little bit of a new roster, losing Kemba Walker, um, will definitely take some time to adjust. So based on all that is why I have them as a 7th seed. Am I allowed to go to my 6th seed, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As my 6th seed, I have the New York Knicks.
Ah.
And the Knicks, of course, they did get better this offseason, adding Kemba Walker at the point guard position, getting rid of Frank about freaking time. But
get the hell out of here! Get the hell out of here! Fucking Payne was starting. Payne ate up all those minutes. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here with that nonsense. Payne's gone. Get the fuck out of here. That's the storyline here.
Anyways, Frank finally got shipped out to Dallas with the other guy that the Knicks.
Payne, yo, Jerk, you better break ice. You better break ice. Anyways, with this nonsense.
Can you
let him talk?
Me speak?
blow me.
God damn. Anyways, of course, hopefully Mitch stays healthy. I know a lot of reports are that he's got a lot bigger and stronger this offseason. Hopefully he actually is, and it's not just these lies that I hear from basically every NBA player in the offseason. And when they come onto the court, they look the exact same. So hopefully he stays healthy as well. That's the most important part. And so that we can really show how good of a defensive team we are, because even without him for large stretches of time, the Knicks were one of the best defensive teams in the league last year. Hopefully, of course, RJ Barrett takes that next step this year. Hopefully goes up to 20 points per game. Hopefully Randall keeps his season, the same season he had last year, if not better. And of course, just hopefully all these young players develop the way they were, and Tom Thibodeau stays the coach of the year candidate that he was last year. But like, it's basically because I like these teams above them a lot more than I like the Knicks. I think the teams above them are also a lot more experienced on my list, of course. But hopefully that I'm just happy the Knicks are in the playoff hunt again for 2 years in a row. I haven't had this kind of feeling in a long time. So yeah, Knicks 6th seed.
Yeah, so I also have the Knicks as a 6th seed. I want everyone to understand this though. I think the Knicks being it's weird because I think the Knicks being a lower seed than last year doesn't mean that they're a worse team. I think even though they're a lower seed this year, I think they're a better team than last year. If that makes sense, of course. I think obviously they upgraded at the point guard position with Kemba Walker. They added Evan Fournier. You know, they're just a lot deeper now, and they re-signed Derrick Rose. Alec Burke goes to the bench. RJ Barrett, we're hoping for a leap forward. I think Mitch, who's starting to practice now. There's a lot more depth in this team. The young guys are a bit more experienced now. I like the rookies, Deuce McBride and Quentin Grimes. So they bought a lot. Like, what did they get? They got rid of Bullock and Peyton, and so obviously they got more depth. They got more shooting, and they got more scoring. They got more scoring like off the dribble. So obviously, the primary responsibility isn't going to be solely on Randall and Barrett. You're going to have Kemba Walker to take off that pressure. So and of course, Evan Fournier can create for himself. So we just got the Knicks got more scoring. They got more shooting. They got more depth. And they brought back a lot of familiar faces. So I think in general, it's a good time for them. Again, lower seed than last year, but I do think they're a better team for all those reasons. And look, I think they're going to be a very cohesive team that's under the radar. Clearly, the most stable New York team in the league, but that's a convo for another time. So shout out to my Knicks. You're a 6th seed to 2/3 of this podcast, Jerk.
Make it 3 for 3, boys. Once again,
nice.
I have the Knicks as my 6th seed. Yeah, like kind of like you guys said, like just because they're lower than last year doesn't mean we think they're a worse team. But it's just, again, the depth of the East. The East is so much better on paper this season than it's been in the past that we have to, like, some teams are going to be lower than when most people would think. And for the Knicks, like, I think they should just be happy with this because, and this is my ultimate reason. So they did make a couple additions. I think Evan Fournier is going to add some much needed shooting for them. Kemba and Derrick Rose playing the point. It's going to be intriguing. Like, you have two veterans handling the point guard role. It's going to be good. RJ, like I've said earlier with a couple guys, like year 3 is a big year for development for players. RJ is going to be one of these year 3 guys where it's like, you need to take that leap. You need to show us like at least an idea of what your ceiling could be. You got Quickly and Burks off the bench, Noel, like the team is solid. I have one main concern, believe it or not, and I will always stand by this.
Tibbs?
Yes, because Tom Thibodeau teams in year 2 and beyond is what I'm interested in seeing. Are they tend to not do as great. Year 2 Chicago Bulls, not as great. Year 2 the Minnesota Timberwolves after the whole Jimmy Butler fiasco, not as great. And it's not just on the fact that Jimmy left. There was still talent on that team, but Tibbs couldn't put it together because he missed his guy. Now, they didn't lose a lot. Yes. Julius Randle should still play pretty well. Yes. RJ should take that next step. Yes. But at the end of the day, my whole thing is, will the usual Tom Thibodeau year 2 issues pop up? And I really want to see if that happens. And that's why I think there's somewhat of a ceiling on the Knicks. If that gets disproven this season, like, by all means.
I agree with you because, well, obviously, let's give flowers. Tibbs is a big reason as to why they've taken a step up. He's given
Right.
them a defensive identity, but I do agree with you. I think we're all differ is that I think with the Bulls, well, didn't they get better like the second year? They actually became they went deep into the playoffs. Look, I think.
Well, no, that was. I forget the timeline. Maybe I'm confusing it slightly. But after they peaked as a 60-win team, they fell off.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, but I think that was like a little later in Tibbs' tenure. But again, I think there was disagreements with management, and I think with the Rose injuries, everything kind of fell off. The Wolves situation was like a disaster in total because he was, I think, the
He was
coach
also
and
GM. Yes, yeah.
GM, and of course we already talked about this ad nauseum. Cat and Wiggins don't want to get better. And there was a whole Jimmy thing with them. So that thing was all fiasco. I think there's a little bit more stability in the front office of the Knicks, which I can't believe I'm saying. And again, I do think the breed of talent that they have, the mentality is way different because I think these are a lot of young dudes that like actually want to be coached. But I'm gonna agree with you, Jurg. Tibbs is like his ideology, while it does work, it's so Republican at times. We can't have dudes be playing like 37 minutes in preseason, man. You could play your rookies, more than garbage time minutes in a preseason game, right? Like that's just one example, but I do agree with you. I think the testament to Tibbs' coaching will come in year 3
Right.
after this season. So I'm going to give this a little bit of, this is your last year of leeway and you have more talent. So let me see what you could do with that. So I
Right.
see where your concern is, but as a Knicks fan, to kind of ease up that little stress, we'll give it till year 3.
All
So that's
right.
where I'm at.
Okay, I mean hey, that's fair. I just like look, I made this joke since they hired him, but like when Tibbs plays RJ 44 minutes a game and his knees give out on him, like I'm just saying, I told you so.
Well, there is more talent. Like there's more, and again, I don't know how much this, I don't know how better this is, but you have Kemba now. I don't know if he could take that many minutes, but
Oh,
you
point
have
guard.
Kemba, you have Fournier.
Oh
There's
no.
more offensive weapons, so it's not going to be just RJ and Randall this time, hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's move on over to what are we? The 5th seed.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me go first for this one. All right, 5th seed. I know, I'm gonna catch flack for this. The Boston Celtics. Now, I do agree with you guys. There's a lot of uncertainties. Well, look, they have Tatum, they have Brown. Those are your 2 cornerstone pieces. Marcus Smart, I believe, is slotting into the starting point guard position. But they did make look. Like this Boston Celtics team a lot more than I did their team last year. And obviously, there was a bunch of issues last year. There was all COVID issues. And then there was Brad Stevens just falling off the cliff, losing the locker room, if you will. But I'm looking at the roster now. I think there's a lot more depth. They added Al Horford, which obviously I know it's Al Horford. He's a little bit older now, but I still think Al Horford's a good player, and I do think I still think his roots are in Boston, man. Like that was like a match made in heaven, obviously, and he's obviously familiar with the team. Dennis Schroeder, we're an anti-Dennis Schroeder podcast, but as a 6-man, as a point guard off the bench, I think he's a relatively solid addition. They add Josh Richardson. I know he had a disappointing tenure in Dallas, but I do think that Dallas thing was like an offense catered to Luka where you couldn't utilize him as much. And then Payne Pritchard, I think, is a good point guard. He's going to step up. Robert Williams just got paid big bucks. And you have Enes Kanter. I know it's Enes Kanter, but as a backup center, I still think it's a little bit of depth. And then you have Juan Hernan Gomez, which I think was a low-key move for them, and who adds shooting and a little bit of size and some depth at the power forward position. So I think I'm high on this team more than most. Again, Aaron Nesmith as well. A lot of depth, a lot of shooting. So I don't know how Ime Udoka's gonna look like. coaching this team because he's a rookie head coach, but I do think he's gonna have like a powerful voice in the locker room. I do think they're gonna actually listen to him, and they vouched for him they vouched for him to get hired. So again, when you look at Jason Tatum and Brown, and then you're surrounded by pretty good supporting pieces, I have him as a fifth seed. I think the Boston Celtics are gonna be back to where you know everyone expected them to be. So yeah, it pains me to say that they're going to be above the Knicks in the standings, but who knows? Maybe not. Hopefully not. Yeah. So who's next?
I'll run next. I got the Atlanta Hawks as my fifth seed. So with the Atlanta Hawks, it's going to be intriguing. I think for a lot of people, they're going to enter this upper echelon in the East because of their playoff run, where people have the expectation of them. And I'm going to be intrigued to see how it carries over in the regular season. I think like of my teams in the top 4, top 5, I think the Hawks probably could be the one that go higher than I'm expecting them, because I think with a full season of Nate McMillan as their coach, I think this roster, they're just scratching the surface on what they could do. Trae Young is going to be a bona fide superstar in the league after this season if he's not one already. Bogdanovich, Hunter, John Collins, Capella. It's just such a good all around starting lineup right there. And then you go to the bench: Lou Will for scoring, Kevin Huerter for shooting, Cam Reddish has essentially another DeAndre Hunter. That's 2 perimeter defenders. Okongwu, I'm hoping, gets a little bit of more playing time here in year 2 and can carve out the backup center role for himself. But if he still needs time, they added Gorgie Dieng, and they drafted Jalen Johnson, who just as as an athletic forward off the bench for like spot minutes, he could do fine. This team has potential, and I think what Nate McMillan is able to do with this team will really be a big indication of how good they really are. But I just have them as the fifth seed because yes, they had the deep playoff run, but still, I just think there's something about them that's just a notch below the teams that I have above them in the East. And hey, it's not for long. Like, this Atlanta Hawks team it's upcoming, it's rising. It's just this year, it's always hard to grade a team that makes a surprise conference finals run the year after. So that's kind of why I think 5 is a fair spot for them.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Hawks at 5 as well. I agree with you. The weird thing is that they were the 5 seed last year, but I think they're a better team this year, just based off experience and that team kind of coming together for yet another year, and of course Trae Young, the superstar, getting another year of experience, especially a year of experience in the playoffs. So, but it's just the fact that, like Jerick said, it's a team above them that I like more than I like them, even though they are better than they were last year at the same seed. I expect Trae Young to take another step forward. I don't know what that is because he's so great already, and just the team chemistry is what I expect to be the real thing that really takes him to the next step of being a better team than they were last year. To me, they're going to be even more of a factor in the playoffs because, like I said, they already had that year of experience in the playoffs against the Knicks, especially in Madison Square Garden. Like, people don't take into account how much of experience that is for a superstar player like Trae Young. Like, if you the stuff that he had to go through, like, you're not gonna go through that anywhere else. So that really, I think, gave him a thicker skin. So just this Hawks team, of course, they were the 5 seed last year, but I think they're gonna be a 5 seed again because there's a team that I think jumped them from last year, and it's not the Knicks, of course, because I have them as a 6 seed. But yeah, Hawks are gonna be good.
Okay. All right. We're in our top 4 now. Oh wow. Okay. Let's speed it up, fellas. We still got the West. I just realized. Okay. Fourth seed. I guess I'll go here. I have the Atlanta Hawks. I do think, like Jerk said, with a full season with Nate McMillan, they brought everyone back. I think they added the rookies, Sharif Cooper and Jalen Johnson. I think both 2 solid pieces, especially for where they got them. So again, this team is really deep. Trae Young is Trae Young. I think DeAndre Hunter healthy makes him even more dangerous. So clearly, this team is deep. They have shooting, they have offense, they have defense. I think the playoffs show that they can be a really good defensive team. I think they were a good defensive team like when Nate McMillan took over months before the playoffs. But I think the playoffs obviously, exposed them as being not exposed. They showed them being a really good defensive team or a good defensive team. So, yeah, they brought everyone back. Again, it's the Hawks. I think they're a legitimate threat in the East. They're not necessarily title contenders, but I think they're officially at that echelon now, where they're a top tier Eastern Conference team. Um, but again, like they brought everyone back. I don't see what that ceiling is for them. Like I don't know what it is. Like you bring everyone back, and bringing everyone back for that team is really good. It's clearly a top 4 seed in my eyes. But like, where do you expect to go, especially in a non-pandemic? Well, it's still pandemic, but like a regular season now. I'm curious to see how that goes, to be honest. But again, I have faith in them because McMillan's a great coach, and obviously they're talented as team. So yeah, and there's continuity with everyone back. So shout out to them. I don't need to say much more than what is already being said about them. All right, Jerk, fourth.
I have my Miami Heat as the fourth seed in the East. Relatively, I tend to have them as the third or fourth seed the last couple of seasons. I think with Miami, the addition of Kyle Lowry, I think, was a big need. Like, they needed a much better point guard. I'm sorry, Gogi. I love you, but Kyle Lowry is better defensively. And just that veteran leadership championship experience, bring more of that there. Starting lineup, 4/5 of the starting lineup is going to be Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. Like that right there is just talent. You have three all-star caliber players in Duncan Robinson who can shoot the lights out. The best undrafted three-point shooter in NBA history, essentially, at this point. Uh, and then you look at the bench, Tyler Hero, who like we've seen literally has actually put on weight and apparently has recommitted himself to the game this year. Thank everything. I guess Jimmy finally got in his ear in the offseason. PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris just add, veteran tough guys, can space the floor a little bit, commit some hard fouls if need be. Um, which they're the guys that'll commit hard fouls that'll actually play because Udonis Haslem is going to occupy his spot as 15-man / extra assistant. And then there's a couple young guys I'm going to be interested to see how they play this season in KZ, Gabe, and Max Strus. But the with those guys last year, it was spare minutes for them. Like here and there, they would play, get a game here, get a game there, get a stretch. I'm going to be interested to see how Spo really ingratiates them more in this veteran heavy lineup. But I think there's going to be spots for them. My big thing for this team, how big is Victor Oladipo going to play a role? If he did get healthy in Miami, which is what these guys like to do, then this team maybe is even better than a fourth seed. But I'm just going to rely on the fact that if they're actually healthy this season, which a lot of people forget, when they started last year 7-14 or whatever, those first 21 games, they missed all of their main players for at least a stretch of games. Jimmy missed 3-4 games. Bam missed like 4 or 5 games. Tyler Hero missed like 5 games. Like, no one was healthy on this team the first third of last season, and yet they still made the playoffs as what were we last year, the 6th seed? So if we're healthy, then the 4th seed is a fair expectation for him.
I'm have the 76ers as the 4th seed. This is regardless if Ben Simmons is there or not. Like, obviously Ben Simmons is a talent, but I just think if they trade Ben Simmons away, they could get talent back, which would make their team better. Just better fits, because I just don't think Ben Simmons fits there. I've been saying that for a while, but Joel Embiid and the role players they have around them is enough to be a 4th seed in the East. Based off what they get, maybe I could put them higher. If they get like a Buddy Hield kind of package or something like that. But as of right now, I have him as a 4th seed. I'm just assuming Ben Simmons isn't going to play regardless if he's back with the Sixers. But yeah, like Tyus Maxey, Tobias Harris, Thibault, obviously Doc Rivers as a coach, and hopefully Embiid stays healthy. Of course, like obviously if he's not healthy, it changes everything. But all that put together, I have them as a 4th seed. And going straight to my 3rd seed, I have the Miami Heat. Of course, if, like I said, if Philly gets a certain package for Ben Simmons, this could change. As of right now, the addition of Kyle Lowry is huge in my opinion. He has that chemistry with Jimmy Butler already, of course, and obviously Kyle Lowry has that championship pedigree as well. So that's really going to help them. Like Jerk said, the lineup of Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Bam Adebayo, and I forgot the last one, Precious.
It could be whoever, like whoever's going to be
Yeah,
at the 4.
it doesn't even matter. Like that's
PJ.
such a PJ Tucker. There, it's such an elite defensive lineup, but you also have the offensive firepower there to kind of match that defensive lineup. So I'm really intrigued to see what the Heat are this season. I have really high expectations. I think they come out the East. To be honest, if it all meshes together, but yeah, I have the Heat as a 3 and the Philly as the 4.
All right. Yeah, so jumping off Dame's back, I also have the Heat as the 3 seed. This team's clearly better. I think they have one of the best lineups in the NBA. You have Kyle Lowry, you have Jimmy Butler, you have Duncan Robinson, you have PJ Tucker, and Bam Adebayo. Um, this team could they have scores now. They don't have to rely on Jimmy solely. But they're even better defensively than they were, which is crazy impressive. PJ Tucker, I think that addition is so underrated. Like, it goes under the radar. I don't think it goes like completely under the radar. I think a lot of people understand, but I don't think a lot of people understand how important that was. They could throw bodies at like the Nets team. You know, when you need someone to guard KD, all right, PJ Tucker, okay, Jimmy Butler, then all right, maybe Bam Adebayo. I think they're gonna like tire the hell out of teams. They honestly could be a top 2 seed, but I think with the additions of all these veterans, I think there's gonna be instances where like some of these guys rest. They're gonna be good enough to be a top 3 seed, but I don't think they're gonna take it as seriously as like we think they would. Especially towards the end when like playoffs are looming, they're gonna be like, all right, we'll just rest our guys. But yeah, depth, defense, more scores, and obviously the chemistry between Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry is already a thing. And then when you have PG Tucker, who's like obviously a locker room guy, he could bring you together on the court and off the court. So this Heat team is straight dogs, and I agree with Dame. I think this is the team that's going to come out the East, especially if a certain someone doesn't play with the Nets. So yeah, I have them as a 3 seed, but I also have them coming out the East. All right, Jerg,
I
third
love
seed.
I love hearing everyone praise my team. I just do. The Philadelphia 76ers are my third seed. Even with the status of Simmons in doubt, I fully believe in Joel Embiid as being one of, if not the best big men in the game. If you don't have him up there, I definitely understand, but he's definitely top two, top three. And I'm always been interested to see what a Joel Embiid without a Ben Simmons lineup would look like, or a Ben Simmons without Joel Embiid lineup would look like. And I think Joel Embiid, with just shooters around him, with Tobias Harris being the second scorer, like I think there's potential here. I think Maxey is going to have a pretty good year two. Korkmaz with his 3-point shooting, Matisse Thybulle as a perimeter defender. I think the pieces are there. I think this works well for Doc Rivers. I think Doc Rivers can work with the rest of these role players and really help these guys grow into their own this season. I know come the playoffs, it's a different story with Doc, but this is the regular season. Doc Rivers tends to do pretty fine when it comes to regular season. So like Philly's still going to be a 50+ win team. Joel Embiid, he got the offseason to rest, and he's looked relatively well. And if he can be pretty healthy this season, which I think like he's starting to prove himself that he could play most of the regular season. I think the concerns for him, we can kind of slowly start to get rid of that as of now. So I think the 76ers to me are still worthy of being a top 3 seed, unless something drastically shifts. Like if the team chemistry really is bad or Joel Embiid gets hurt, then that's the only reason that they wouldn't be. Just moving on, because we've all named our 3 seeds at this point. I'm going to quickly name my 2 seed, the Brooklyn Nets. Like even with just two of their big three, like this is why KD probably pushed for that James Harden deal, because with him and Harden there, with shooters in Patty Mills and Joe Harris, you got Brown there, Cam Thomas, who they drafted, De'Aaron Sharp, who they drafted, I think are two young guys who could both, especially Cam Thomas, could contribute right away. They got depth with their bigs. They got Aldridge back. They got Blake Griffin. They got Paul Millsap. I think a lot of people forgot about that signing. They did sign Paul Millsap with his defense and leadership and IQ. Like this Brooklyn Nets team is just still supremely talented. Like people are acting like, oh, without 1/3 of their big three, it's going to be bad. No, they still have 2 MVPs on the team. Like, let's not forget that. If KD plays 60+ games, if Harden plays 70+ games, this team will be just fine.
Yeah, yeah. To my 2 seed, I do have the Brooklyn Nets. I think the reason why I don't have them as the first seed is because I don't think Kevin Durant and James Harden will play every game. But I do agree with you, Jerg. The additions of Paul Millsap, LaMarcus Aldridge is back. Blake Griffin is back. Blake Griffin is a piece of shit, but he was relatively effective. Blake Griffin was effective for this team last year. He obviously did a decent job on Giannis during the playoffs, but that's neither here or there. And they did get Patty Mills. You got more veterans. They're deeper, which is kind of scary. And you're led by Kevin Durant, James Harden. I don't have to say much about them. If Kyrie plays, they could clearly be the 1 seed, but who knows with that man? I don't know. I don't care about them. Fuck them. But they're obviously good enough to be the 1 or 2 seed. I just think because it's Durant, because it's Harden, I don't think we're gonna get a full season out of either of them. So those will be the games in which I could see them losing sometimes. So yeah, 2 seed Nets. Dame.
Yeah, I have Nets as a 2 seed as well. It basically just comes down to the fact that I don't think KD and Harden play all the games this season. I think they're going to rest a lot, and of course they've had their injuries the past couple of years, so you just have to take that into account as well. It's not really like I mentioned, it's not really what they can do. It's what they can't do with their injuries and their rest. But with Kyrie Irving, I think they might be even better off without him. To be honest, just a distraction and one less guy that dominates the ball. And I think James Harden is obviously a better playmaker than he is. So it's a hot take, but I think they could be better off without Kyrie. But obviously, we all have the same number 1 seed, I assume, the Milwaukee Bucks. Just I think they're a deeper team, and I think from Giannis to Middleton, I think, and Drew Holiday. I think they're just gonna play more games than the Brooklyn Nets Big Two or Big Three will. And I just think they're a better defensive team as well. That's why I would have them as the number 1 seed.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Coming off a championship, I do have the Bucks as the 1 seed. They brought everyone back. They did lose PG Tucker, which I think is going to be massive. But I think it's going to be more apparent in the playoffs. Um, yeah, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. They're a solidified top 3 seed. I just think with everyone back and with I guess fresh off a championship win, they're gonna feel that chip isn't on their shoulder anymore, which could be a bad thing. But I just think I think they'll take the regular season seriously. I think they've learned their lesson. I think they're the one top tier team that isn't gonna look to rest their stars. I talk about the Nets and I talk about the Heat. I think the Bucks gonna be the one consistent top tier team that's going to be playing throughout. But yeah, I mean, I don't have to say much about him. Giannis is Giannis. Middleton is Middleton. Holiday is Holiday. And then you have your supporting pieces like Brook Lopez and co. And Dante DiVincenzo will be back too. So, Jerg.
The Detroit Pistons are not my number 1 seed. No, the Milwaukee
Wow.
Bucks are my first seed here. Of course, the defending champs, like they brought back a vast majority of the roster. Like you said, Chris, I think PJ Tucker will mainly be missed come the playoffs. But I just think like with that chip now, for some teams maybe they kind of lose it, but I think Giannis has the drive and will communicate to this team like they can become something, they can do something here. And one championship is not enough to really be vividly remembered as a team for history to talk about. So I think there's still a drive there for this squad. I think there's still pieces there. Remember, they had that run with Dante DiVincenzo out in the playoffs. Him coming back, he's going to be another guard in that rotation. Grayson Allen, I think, was a good pickup, and Rodney Hood. But like Grayson Allen can shoot, Rodney Hood could get a shot for himself here and there. You got the depth of Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez back. Um, Man, this team is just so good. I only fear that Mike Budenholzer is somehow going to screw it up come the playoffs, but that's for the playoffs.
You will.
In the regular season, like we've said, I think despite the fact that they now understand the regular season, you can take a step back or two here and there. I also think they would like to get home court advantage again, because think about the 2 most important series they played last year. It was the semifinals against the Nets and it was the NBA Finals against the Suns. They didn't have home court advantage for either series.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks would love to make sure that they could get a more home court advantage for key series. So I wouldn't be surprised if they at least get the first seed in the East, because if it goes to a game 7, I definitely think they would much rather like their chances at home as opposed to away against Brooklyn again in particular. But yeah, Bucks is the top seed.